That was magic. Did you see that? I hope you can see him. Or her. Oh, there's the most beautiful butterfly. Come back. Hello everybody, I have taken a tad little hiatus from posting. We had a very busy weekend hosting retreats, so I've not actually checked the garden out in a while, and I thought what better time than to take you with me and do a little sneak peek, take a look around what we have going on in the July gardens here at Tamtara. We're gonna start here in the high tunnel. I do want to say and kind of acknowledge before we get too into it that we have had a pretty odd grow season. We started with what I would call like a little heat wave, and then after that it cooled off a lot, and I think that really stunted a lot of things. It is end of July while I'm filming this tour, so we do have some things that are coming to harvest now, but it's definitely a bit of a delay. The first thing that I saw though when I came into the high tunnel would be all of the tomatoes that are green and growing right now. We don't have any red or ripe ones, but they are getting pretty big. I'm 5'6", so these tomatoes are just right at my shoulder height, which is really exciting. At the beginning of the high tunnel, we have the Moscovich variety of tomato, which is one of my favorites. It is doing really well. I think they are the first 5 tomatoes, and look at all of this fruit that's on here. They're about 2 to 3 inches in size now. They'll probably cap out at around 5 inches. Generally, of course, there's some on either side of that number, and then they start to ripen out. It's an indeterminate variety, and it's one of the ones I'm the most excited about this season. The plants themselves have been so happy this season. I'm doing a bit of a different trellising method. As you can see, I'm using a single string and pruning my tomatoes into one lead stalk. I take off all of the runners out of the little armpit joints, and so far I've been really happy with this method. We've had quite a few windstorms this season for whatever reason, and I have not lost any fruit. The plants have survived well because there seems to be enough slack in the string itself that it blows with the wind and nothing gets knocked off, and there's not a lot of resistance that causes damage to the plant. So I've been really enjoying this. It's the first season that I've worked with a stringing trellis method, and so far it's been great, especially because this is a high tunnel. I mean, I can tell for sure it's been a while since I've been in the garden because we've got some runners starting and it's time to twist some of these up a little bit more, but overall it's looking really good in the high tunnel, and I'm so happy to see the amount of fruit forming that is here. It looks like we're gonna have a good tomato season, knock on wood. We have some purple peacock peas at the front of the tunnel as well, and they are just starting to produce. I grew them last year in the salad garden area and I enjoyed them just for some fresh eating. We put them in a few sauteed veggie stir fries and they were quite lovely. It was a last minute addition to use up some of the space at the front of this high tunnel, and now that it is mid-July and they're producing, I'm definitely happy I chose to sneak these guys in here. It's always so nice to come to the garden after a few days of just being out of here because you just have fresh eyes and you see so many new and exciting discoveries. Also, the to-do list feels a little long when you come back because you're like, oh, when the plants grow, the weeds grow also. So that's dynamic, but it's really lovely to get back into the garden. We have so much echinacea around the garden right now that is starting to flower. It is so geometric. Oh, bumblebee. Sorry, buddy. Look how geometric this is. It's magic. Like I mentioned, we have had just some really intense winds. I wouldn't call them full-on storms, but it's been way more gusty than we're used to, and it's actually taken out this echinacea plant down here, which is really sad because it was just as large as that other one I showed you, and it was starting to flower up, and the wind just took it right out. I'm hoping that the root is all right and that it'll come back next season, but that was sad to see that go. Also took out this massive sunflower plant that we have here. This thing is now tied up with this string to this trellis to give it some additional support because it got put through the ringer. In this center garden bed here, we have our russet potatoes. They are doing great. They're about at the stage where they are putting on their little berries that are poisonous and you should not eat. I just freshly mulched this because some of the potatoes were starting to show through the surface of the soil. There are so many bees in this sunflower, it makes me so happy. Unfortunately, our trellis archways are filling out very slowly. I planted the red noodle yard long beans. They're Chinese red noodle beans that get really long. I butchered that name, but I planted them later than all of the other beans, and they're taking a while to get established and to grow. They are growing. I'm just hoping we have enough time in our season to actually have them fill out these cattle panel trellises and give us that look we're going for. Yeah, like I said, they are growing. They're a bit lighter, so it looks like I might need some more nitrogen in the soil. And they've gotten a lot larger in the last few days, so maybe I just needed to give them a little extra time to catch up. Fingers crossed we have enough time in the season, but it's all a learning curve, so we'll see how it goes. We have been harvesting so much calendula. I use calendula in pretty much all of my salves, whether it's skincare or bee bug salves. It's got so many good properties for your skin. Calendula is a great one because it self-seeds. I didn't plant any of these and they're thriving, living their best life, so it's really easy to maintain a steady input and intake of calendula flowers to use for all of my teas and salves and concoctions that I make. Also on this trellis, we do have some spaghetti squash. They are starting to form up, which is really exciting. There's a little guy there. Couple more coming in. It does look like the spaghetti squash are going to fill out our second cattle panel trellis, so that's going to be so exciting. It's my first year with cattle panel archways, and I'm hoping it works out for us. So far, so good. The beans are a bit behind, but I'm still fingers crossed. Of course, in July, we have all of the blooms coming in. So many flowers here. On the other side, we have the just brightest of pink hollyhocks. Also some white cosmos in there. Of course, even more calendula, like I said. Oh! I'm gonna have to turn off that sprinkler or else we're gonna get wet. I shared with you guys in a previous video that it was my first year growing amaranth, and I have not been disappointed. Take a look at this. It has gotten so big. It's just starting to bloom now and opening up. It is gorgeous. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. I'm sure there's like a world that I have just tapped into for amaranth recipes or uses, and I'm excited to learn more. Right now, I'm just happy that it grew to this size. There's also sorghum in here that is just starting to open up as well, so that's really exciting for me. Oh, I've missed the evening garden walks. It's such a gift. So lovely. I will say we have had some losses this year. I am not going to have much of a carrot or a beet harvest, unfortunately. These two raised beds behind me, I'll show you here, got attacked. We do have a 1-inch chicken wire around both of these beds, So I was ruling out rabbits, maybe chipmunks got in here, but I ended up losing most of my beet and carrot harvest for the season. So that was a really rough day. Definitely cried. Which for those of you who don't understand, that's fine, but there's gonna be people out there who relate, and when you lose that much of a crop, it's sad, okay? So in this bed, it's pretty much down to some ground cherries, a big old sage bush, and some butternut squash plants that are just really starting to take off now. So hopefully we have enough time to harvest some butternut squash this season. We'll see how that goes. But these two beds are a little sad right now. I will say though, the upper of these two beds, there are 3 Reno squash plants growing in this one bed, and they look big and very happy. So I've got high hopes for our Reno squash. It's an acorn squash variety. I'm really excited to see what we get off of it this year. We have a lot of shadows and stuff happening. I hope you can see me. Maybe we'll do this. Of course, it's July, so we have been harvesting things. I decided to do my garlic harvest on the same day that I discovered that some animal had eaten most of my carrots and my beets. It kind of outweighed the bittersweetness of losing most of those crops to discovering a huge, lush, beautiful harvest of 2 different varieties of garlic. We grew both the Red Russian variety as well as the music variety. For those of you who don't know of the music variety of garlic, the individual cloves themselves are massive, like significantly longer than your average garlic clove, but each bulb will only have roughly 4. So instead of using multiple smaller cloves, we weigh that out by using just one big one. It's nice because it saves you prep time in the kitchen, but I will say I find that the Red Russian garlic has a bit more of that really wholesome, good homegrown garlic flavor. So take that information and use it as you will. What else have we harvested? Oh, we got our first green beans yesterday. We harvested enough to have a side dish for a meal that we prepared for a few of our friends that were at a retreat on our property. It was a really lovely evening, and truly, yeah, it was such a gift to be able to feed people from what you've grown on your land. We did our chicken butchering the other day as well, so we did some chicken skewers, and there was a lot that we grew here and raised here, and that was really rewarding, and we got to share it with some lovely people, and it was just a blessing. It was lovely. Our pole beans are getting massive. They are loaded with flowers. I can see some 1 to 1/2 inch long beans starting to form. In my last garden tour, I talked about the 2 different pole bean varieties I was growing. We have a hybrid on this side, and then we have an heirloom variety on this side. I believe the heirloom is Blue Lake, and then the hybrid is Kentucky Blue, which is a hybrid of Blue Lake and another bean variety. And there is a huge difference in growth. As you can see, this is pretty much full, and these vines have gone roughly 1 foot to 2 feet above this trellis, which is so high. The hybrid right now is extremely outperforming the heirloom, which I'm a little bittersweet about because I wanted the heirloom to be, I'm a bit of a traditionalist in that sense. Like, the idea of an heirloom performing really well is very romantic to me. But as it stands right now, this hybrid is definitely kicking the heirloom's butt. So many flowers in the front of the beds in the salad garden. It's been really lovely to watch them bloom. We've got tomatillos that are just getting huge. Look at that. Summer squash is a little all over the place. This is what I was talking about when I said that they were a little bit stunted. I was happy to see after the weekend that some of the summer squash had started to even out in size, but all of the new growth is a lot richer looking, and it's growing quite quickly, so I think the nutrients have balanced out. I did some organic fertilizer in there, and I think we're on track now, but our summer squash is definitely delayed. Normally we would be harvesting zucchinis and patty pans and cue ball squash in July, but we've just gotten 1 or 2 cue ball squash, and they were very small, so I'm hoping that they start to produce in their full glory like we all know zucchini plants do shortly here in the first week or so of August. I didn't know this when I planted these trombosino squash, but you could actually harvest them when they're small and eat them like a summer squash, or if you allow them to mature and cure, you can store them like a winter squash. So depending on how our butternut squash plants do, I might store some, but we might also try some for fresh eating. It's an exciting crop when you have those types of options available to you, and I just found our first little guy on one of our plants. Look at him, he's so cute! So exciting. These are the Provider bush beans that we ate off of yesterday for the first time. They're a pretty well-known variety of green bush beans. I would recommend. They are delicious and they seem to be producing prolifically. I'm really excited for this whole bed. I love green beans in the summer with some butter and salt, so this is a highlight for me. I do have sad news. For those of you who've been following along on our gardening journey here, you know that I've been doing some serious work in this upper garden bed. I have been amending it, added a bunch of compost this season, and have really been trying to up the odds of getting a harvest out of it. But because it's located right under, where is it, this big old spruce tree, there's a lot of competition for nutrients and water, and unfortunately I've lost one of my blueberry bushes this season. It looks like there might have been some damage to the root, but I can't tell, so that one plant is dead, so I'm down to 4 blueberry bushes, and everything else in that garden bed is just really not thriving. It's definitely a nutrient deficiency, so if you have any brainstorming ideas about what we might be able to do in that area, like I said, it's freshly amended with compost this season, a lot of it, and I've even gone as far as to fertilize with organic liquid fertilizer as well, and the plants are still struggling. So I was considering maybe going a blackberry bush route, putting something in here that grows fairly well indigenously and seeing how it fares in the soil in that top bed. I'm not sure what to do. I can't take this spruce tree out. It is a massive tree and it's very close to our house. I'm not a arborist and I don't want to play that game, and it's very healthy and I don't think it's going to fall down naturally or go anywhere anytime soon. So the spruce tree is permanent and we need to learn to work around it. So if you have ideas on what might grow okay near a spruce tree, obviously soil testing is on the table and we'll probably look into that next spring, but I'll always take a suggestion or two if you have any ideas. Thank you so much for spending the evening with me while I walk around and catch up on what the garden has been up to over this past couple of weeks of July. It's been a weird year, like I mentioned at the beginning. Things are delayed. I've had some animal pressure that I've not had before, so I've definitely had some emotional ups and downs. Overall, I'm trying really hard to be grateful for the things that are working. It looks like we're going to have a really nice tomato season. I've got beautiful pole beans, some squash are coming in, and trying to be patient with the fact that I live in the mountains and I am just a couple weeks behind from all of my friends who are growing in the lower valley. It's a bit of a mindset challenge this time of year. I'm still in that lull before the harvest really hits. So I'm trying to appreciate the downtime and get ready for the push of preservation that is on its way. Remember to hit the like and subscribe button if you enjoyed this video and want to follow along in our growing process. As always, I hope you're having a fruitful and fantastic summer. I will see you all back here very shortly for another video. Bye-bye for now.